This is Chris Stockdale welcoming you to my final project podcast on using Photostory 3 to create multimedia presentations for classroom use. In this podcast, I will discuss how simple it is to develop high-quality multimedia presentations using free software from Microsoft named Photostory 3. Sit back and relax and prepare yourself to add an awesome new tool to your toolbox of Web 2.0 educational tools. The learning objective developed for this podcast is that after viewing this podcast, you will have the ability to create your own multimedia presentation for classroom use using a free software named Photostory 3 by Microsoft. Before we begin, there are 5 key terms that I want to familiarize you with. Understanding these key terms should keep you from being confused by any of the content discussed in this podcast. Multimedia presentation. Multimedia is the use of text, images, video clips, projectors, software, computers, and any other technology media to deliver content to users through various technology mediums. Image. Many of you may recognize this term as photos or digital stills. This is a fancy word for pictures used in a digital context. Internet. The World Wide Web of the Internet we are all familiar with. Import means to add photos or other media to a specific program. Photostory 3, a program developed by Microsoft that allows one to make a presentation with images, sound, and customizable transitions. Now that we have reviewed the key terms used in this podcast, let's begin looking at the steps that is involved in using Photostory 3 to complete our multimedia presentation for classroom use. Let's begin by locating the Photostory 3 on your computer. You should be able to find Photostory under the Windows Start button. If you don't have Photostory, you can download it for free on the internet from Microsoft.com. The easiest way to locate this program is by just doing an easy internet search for Photostory 3.
After installing or finding Photostory on your computer, you will see this intro screen. From this screen, you will want to select Begin a New Story. After you select Begin a New Story, click the Next button at the bottom of the page. Okay, we have now started our new story. From this screen, you will want to import your images by selecting the Import Pictures button. You will then see the File selection box open up, and there you will locate your images on your computer or removable drive. You can select one image or multiple images by holding the Control key and clicking the images you want to use in your story. After you select your images, hit OK, and you will see the next screen. You will then see this screen informing you that your photos are being added to your new story. In this screen, you will see all of your images in a storyboard format. On this screen, you have the ability to change the order of the images, format the images, and add various effects to them. You can also edit your photos from the screen to fit your story best. The great thing about this is that Photostory does this work for you. There are numerous combinations that you can choose, so it is really up to you what you want to do with your images. After you have selected the options that you're happy with, then click the Next button at the bottom of the page. The next screen you will see is where you have the ability to add text to your images. Along with the text, you also have the ability to add special effects to your images in this portion of Photostory. Once you have selected the effects that you want for your images and added the appropriate text to them, you are ready to select the Next button at the bottom of the page. Don't forget, you have the ability to add these features to all of your images by selecting the image you want from the storyboard at the bottom of the screen. Please, remember to save your work. The next screen that you will see allows you to add your voice to your images. This feature allows you to personalize your presentation to help your audience understand the purpose of your presentation. You also have the ability on the screen to customize the motion of the images in your final product. Remember that you have to do this customization for all of your images, or you can just use what is already there. This is what is great about this program, is that you can let it do all the work for you, or you can change it to meet your liking. After you have the motions and the narrations how you want it, you can preview your final product by selecting the preview button in the middle of the screen. Remember to save your work. Once you are happy with the way your product is, you can select the next button at the bottom of the page to continue on. The next screen that we come to in Photostory is where you can add background music to your presentation. On this screen you have the ability to select music that you may have saved on your computer, or you can have Photostory make the music for you. I find that having Photostory make this music for you gives your presentation a nice feel, and you don't have to worry about copyright infringement. But if you have some copyright-free music that you want to use, you can select it from this screen. If you decide to let Photostory create the music for your final product, then you will see this screen. Here you will select how Photostory makes your music. As you are making the various selections on the screen, you have the ability to preview the music. On this screen, you are also able to select the tempo of your music. You may find that you want to speed up or slow down the tempo, and you have this ability to do this by moving the slide bar under the tempo label. After you have formatted your music to your liking, you will then want to select the OK button at the bottom of the screen. If you decide to let Photostory create the music for your final product, then you will see this screen. Here you will select how Photostory makes your music. As you are making the various selections on this screen, you have the ability to preview the music. On the screen, you are also able to select the tempo of your music. You may find that you want to speed up or slow down the tempo, and you have the ability to do this by moving the slide bar under the tempo label. After you have formatted your music to your liking, you will then want to select the OK button at the bottom of the screen. After you have added your background music to your presentation, you will end up on this screen. Here you will see that music that you added to your product sitting above the image storyboard. You can then view what your final product will look like by selecting the preview button. If you preview your presentation and find that your background music is too loud or too soft, you have the ability to adjust it on this screen. After making your adjustments, you can preview it again by selecting the preview button. One thing that is important to remember is that you want to periodically save your project using the Save Project button at the bottom left of the screen. It would be a shame to have put all this work into a project and lose it because you failed to save it. Once you have finished adding your background music and saving your project, you will want to select the Next button at the bottom of the screen to move on. So now we are at the end of our presentation making process. We have started our story, imported our images, edited them to our liking, added movement and transitions, narrated them for our audience, added or composed our background music, and now we have made it to the rendering portion, where we will save all of our work into a video that we can then distribute to our audience. On this screen, we have many choices of how we want to save our project. Take your time and study each option. For every project, an audience has a different need. You will want to make sure that your presentation is rendered accordingly to your want and their need. After you have made your selections, you will then want to select Next. After selecting Next, you will then see the boxes that indicate your presentation is being made. Here you see that Photostory is preparing your video. Step 2. Photostory is creating your custom music. Step 3. Photostory is making your audio that you created on your images. Step 4. Photostory is making your video. It won't be long now, and you will have your finished product. And finally, your video is done. This is a screen that you will be happy to see. This means that your presentation is done and can now be viewed. Congratulations on creating your first multimedia production.
Now that you are all pros at using Photostory to develop multimedia presentations for classroom use, I wanted to discuss with you a few ways that you can share your media that you have created. As you can see from this image, I've listed a few popular ways that people are sharing their multimedia presentations today. The first one is that of YouTube. I know that you are all familiar with this site, and some of you may even already have a membership to this site. Here, you can upload your presentations and share them with your intended audiences. Next on my list of places to share is that of a local server that you may have at your school or even your house. Then I have email. Many of us have received emails with presentations attached to them, so I wanted to remind you that this is also a way to reach your intended audience. The next option on my list is that of a flash drive. You can copy your presentation file to a flash drive and then share this way. You can also share your presentation on your personal website or your personal blog. I would encourage you to explore these avenues of sharing because in the future you're going to see these means of communication become more popular, and it is better to prepare yourself than to be lost. Feel free to view this podcast as many times as you feel necessary to meet this learning objective. This podcast was brought to you by Chris Stockdale, Morehead State University, Spring 2011, EDIL 619. Until next time, this is Chris Stockdale signing off.